Greetings, heathens and heretics, and welcome to Industrial the Abyss. Bit of that.
Oh God!
Yeah, that's bad. Sorry, probably have to edit that out. This week it's myself and the voice of reason. No Padre, no Bean this week. Padre, I'm not sure if he's landed at this point or not, but either way, he might be in the sky. But this week we're tackling something that we haven't ever really talked about on this podcast, and probably the most, certainly to the outsider, the most impenetrable form of heavy music. I think it's fair to say. I've had a couple of drinks already.
I had to say it's all going horribly wrong already, isn't it?
But for that, we needed an expert. So, Mr. Alex Palmer of Seven Circle Artworks, and of course Global Noise Attack, which I'm sure you'll talk a bit about more. But you are our expert this week. Welcome back, Alex. Coming on for the second time.
Obviously, couldn't get anybody with more knowledge, so I thought, fuck it.
Well, this is it. None of us have got a fucking clue. So we needed someone.
I consider myself the expert then.
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose what we want to do, well, it's not a history lesson, but we got to understand where it all started, what it's all about. And what I've found with the research I've been doing this week is that it's a fascinating subculture, and there's so much going on that I didn't know about. So it will be kind of just almost a bit of a sell to us, really, as to what the appeal is with industrial and all that jazz. So yeah. But before we get to that, how are you, sir, and how are things?
Well, again, I'm about 3 beers down, and I've just met Raymond Block. So
that's a weird one.
Fucking random as that. Hey, what are you going to do? He actually said, if I squeeze him, he'll squeeze me back, and I'm going to keep that with me for the rest of my life.
Well, if you squeeze my lizard, I'll put my snake in you.
Put my snake in you, exactly.
Yeah. So that's an odd one, but fair enough. It's interesting. It's different, I suppose. Right. So, like I said, industrial. Me and the voice don't really know a great deal about it. So, from your expert point of view, give us a bit of a history lesson on what industrial actually is.
Right. Well, I mean, like that thing I sent you the other day with this guy Pierre Schaeffer. So you're looking right back to like maybe mid 1940s. Developed a thing called musique concrète, French composer, using basically found sounds and like field recordings to create sort of rhythmic music, and then use those as instruments in their own right. And then I'm guessing that's kind of where the industrial, like the whole process and the ethos is stem from, right through to like Neubatten, even Gary Newman, right to Fear Factory. So that
it's a bit early for Fear Factory, isn't it?
But very brief history. But you can all links back to like the mid 40s.
When you sent me a piece of that Spotify link of it was 1957 was the piece of music you sent me, and it's bonkers. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever, but you kind of understand that. I suppose it is a bit of a breeding ground. Yeah.
So you can find like rhythm in anywhere you can call it what was it, a train going down a track, but then it's got a rhythmic beat to it. Then you use that as your backbeat, and then you could do whatever else over the top of that. There's nothing to say that you have to have drum kits or etc. etc. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the industrial things come from.
Yeah,
using
and
that clanking sound.
And that makes sense, I suppose. But for the industrial that we came to know, sort of into the 80s, and that, I suppose mid 70s it kicked off, wouldn't it? Which would have been around Throbbing Gristle, and was it a label, Industrial Records? Was it?
Yeah, Throbbing Gristle. Yeah, they started their label, Industrial Records.
Yeah,
that was
late 70s, maybe. Yeah, late 70s. So that's kind of, I'm guessing that's probably where the name then came from, or they kind of like introduced that to the world, so to speak.
Because it's, I suppose, I mean, maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but my very high level research that I did just to try and allow myself to push into it a little bit. I certainly didn't go that far back into the 40s, so I'm keen. Well, I say keen. I'm interested to learn more and dig a bit deeper. So I'll have to. I haven't had a chance to listen to that link, but I suppose what my research told me, which I never really realised before, is that industrial is more, or it seemed to be more of a punk rock thing than a hard rock thing, because it goes back to Suicide and Throbbing Gristle mainly.
I mean, when you look at a Throbbing Gristle, they started out as a kind of an art collective.
Yeah.
And the idea was like, oh, you can play guitar, right? Well, you're playing drums. You know, kind of. So nobody was comfortable with the instrument that they were given. So that means you almost have like a childlike naivety to it, maybe. So it creates probably a different type of music entirely that's never been done before, because you've not been taught anything. So you're not using taught skills.
It's almost creating chaos.
Yeah, which I think is probably certainly where Throbbing Gristle probably, that was their intent, I would imagine. You ever listen to any interviews with members of that band, like Cozy, Fanny Tutti, and Genesis P. Origin? It's just totally different mindset, and like I say, like an art collective more than a music group, if you like.
And if you think of the era as well, I suppose mid to late 70s, that's like just dropping a bomb on what musical culture was back then, with sort of, you know, your Zeppelins and all that was starting to sort of dwindle out a little bit. Punk was coming in. So I suppose, like Andy said, you know, punk is a relative in that way.
Yeah, definitely.
I suppose from that point of view, I can see how it's got, you know, the punk rock thing is a thing, but considering at the time you'd had Kraftwerk doing their thing for a bit, and you've also got like you know, Human League knocking about before that first album. Gary Newman's picked up a keyboard in the rehearsal room because he wants to muck about. So I'm kind of thinking, was it punk, or was it more that early synth thing, or was it effectively a combination of both, really?
Yeah, it's probably more like just everything coming together as an amalgamation. I mean, you had punk trying to kick out all the rock dinosaurs, but then at the same time, punk within 2 years became very poppy anyway, very mainstream. And then maybe this is a reaction against that punk becoming mainstream, perhaps. And then you get the post-punk of the likes of like Killing Joke and all those sort of things.
And I suppose that era, all that melting pot of music, it all kind of complements each other. You've got a very sort of similar subculture on the go. Yeah.
So I'm thinking then probably more where you're getting that kind of the aesthetic is probably coming from the that short punk period, you know, when it was like Johnny Rotten wearing swastikas and stuff like that. It was just as a reactionary thing. So I'm guessing then maybe then you get the industrial aesthetic comes from that, with all the bondage side of the image, and moving right up to it carries on now.
I wonder if there was much of a relationship and much of a, you know, if a lot of those bands, your punk bands and those, you know, the early sort of pioneers of industrial music, I wonder if they ever sort of crossed paths in those time, and the fans crossed paths and things like that. I wonder what the kind of the mix would have been like.
Must have been probably quite incredible. I mean, it's obviously like such a late 70s is probably the most vibrant period of music creation. You know, there's not a lot that's been done since that's actually new. You know what I mean? Like industrial music, if that's really stemmed out of the late 70s, well, there's nothing really new come after that, or Alice Cooper. You know what I mean? So it was such a vibrant period for just everybody crossing over and everybody doing something and taking something from here, taking something from there. And, you know, there's so many genres of music that come out of that maybe 5-year period, 75, 80.
Yeah, fucking hell, yeah. Loads and loads of change. Like I said, all that sort of, like I said, the dinosaur rock was coming to an end. New wave of British heavy metal was starting to come in. Punk, exactly. You know, the 80s synth stuff, when that started to hit, it was just like it must have been such a fucking great time to be a music fan back then. It's you know,
I mean, you've gone from what 75, and you've got like Led Zeppelin, Sabbath at their peak, and then within 7 years, you've already got like Slayer, Metallica, Ministry are already starting in 1982. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's
You've
mad.
already got 2 albums from Killing Joke at that point as well. It's just like, what the fuck? 7 years. It's actually quite crazy.
I frequently tell people my favourite period of music is basically 1976 to 1986, like the lots, not just the rock stuff, but the pop stuff as well that I grew up with. It's just so distinctive and so much going on. It's mesmerising.
Yeah, I mean, you like you say, like humanly, think Jesus Christ, what did they become? But what did they start?
Yeah.
Stuff like being boiled. It's just wow, it's amazing. And
Well,
again, Spandau Ballet. This is all again going into that kind of far right aesthetic, if you like. You know, Spandau Ballet straight away. You've got a link to some shady politics, even though they're not shady. Just saying for the record.
But that was the thing, wasn't it? Obviously, Joy Division and whatnot. You know, doing the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's quite fascinating. Everybody loves a bit of a dark side, and if you can do something with it, then yeah, run with it.
It was a freeing time for a lot of people, wasn't it? It was like, you know, sort of pre you know, mid 80s and AIDS and all that kind of thing. So there was a lot less awareness of what was going on. Everybody was like, you know, kind of loving life late 70s and into the early 80s. It was all about expressing yourself and having a whole world of fun. And, you know, the way people dressed and the way people carried themselves was like out there. And it was great, really, when you think about it. We're almost going through a bit of that again now. It's almost come around in a bit of a cycle, but it's a much more mainstream thing now. It's much more in the public eye, whereas back then it was a lot more underground, and they were looked down on as the weirdos, the strange people, and all that.
Yeah, but at the same time, they were visionaries. Some of them, you know what I mean. On a creative level, it's very difficult to sort of see much further than the likes of Throbbing Gristle, because they just went out and did, let's just create, regardless. There's no boundaries, and that is where you get pure art, not just music, but in general. If you push all your boundaries out of the way, this is where you get that kind of music from. And I would like to think that there are bands that are doing that now. There's a band called Cattle from Leeds. I'll put it on one of those playlists that I did for you. And I saw it at the Desert Fest a few years ago. Fucking bonkers live. All kind of like just I don't even know how to explain it. Like industrial almost in its purest form. Just rhythmic noise running around. It's like real. It was really good. And it's good to see that those bands are still trying to not replicate, but kind of I don't know, bring back that feel, rather than just going down the road of like same amplifier, the same guitar pedal, this, that, and the other, and you end up just sounding like everybody else.
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually. I suppose, you know, these days where we're almost obsessed with pigeonholing everything into a subgenre of a subgenre of a subgenre, and then when you've got, if there are still artists out there that are just doing, they don't fit any kind of pigeonhole. They're just free to do whatever they want and express themselves however they feel, you know.
Yeah,
they feel that's can only be a positive thing.
And I think this is where you're going to start getting all those crossovers. I think it was probably where like post-punk, Public Image, those sort of bands, that they just started off doing that, and then suddenly you create almost a whole, you create a subgenre, and then another subgenre within that, and it all becomes this, I don't know, this huge family tree that all kind of stems from the industrial music, if you like.
Yeah, love a rock family tree.
yeah. If you've got like 2 weekends in a row to go through them.
Yeah, but if you involve industrial, that's where the tree just goes like it's been fucking grown in Chernobyl kind of thing.
Can you imagine on School of Rock, where Jack Black has got his history of rock family tree up, and he's trying to teach them industrial bits. That would be worth a lesson, wouldn't it?
Wow. I mean, even when you asked me, like, and I was just like, okay, I know what I know. And I started to do some research. I'm trying to like join the dots. And it's like, just fuck me. You just can't. And you know what I mean? And I'm a big fan of the music. But yeah, you're going between goth, new wave, post-punk, punk, metal, thrash, Ministry, almost a thrash band at one point.
Yeah.
So it's like, but they were also doing Depeche Mode, catchy pop songs right at the beginning.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I was going to bring them up because they are my favourite band, which is amusing because you've got a KMFDM t-shirt on at the moment, and there's the old joke that stands for Kill Motherfucking Depeche Mode.
I've never heard that.
I was trying to actually remember the German. It's kind. Oh fuck! No, I'm not even going to bother attempting it. But it basically translates down to "no pity for the majority." So okay, it's a very political statement. and I can't remember the
Yeah.
German translation. But yeah,
but yeah, I mean,
Depeche Mode. That's it.
it's hilarious, but yeah, I mean, straight away, you know, they release a synth pop album as their first one. They lose their main songwriter, and after an album of Funnying About, they go over to Berlin, where Martin Gore listens to a hell of a lot of Ein Shirts Under New Button and starts bashing pipes and hitting things and all that, and rolling pebbles along grounds and recording it, and you get two almost semi-industrial pop albums before they really just open up the goth and the post-punk, etc. more. And we all know their influence on a lot of stuff. So it's just, without that industrial influence to begin with, I mean, my God, it's huge.
I mean, you're talking like even Al Jurgensen talks about, he was brought up on like Hank Williams and stuff like that. So he doesn't even listen to sort of metal, but he got into Sabbath. So that it was kind of like throwing riffs into pop hooks. So he said he from day one he was listening to country music, which means he's got a concept of being able to write a catchy chorus, and that's something the Ministry have never lost. They've always got a good riff and a catchy fucking chorus. So whether it's down to how heavy it is doesn't matter. It's still down to the songwriting for a band like that anyway. But the fact that he'll cite Hank Williams as an influence rather than Throbbing Gristle. That's where you start getting that, the Chernobyl family tree.
Yeah, I can remember that one. But
yeah,
like bands like Ministry aside, because obviously they broke out into into different levels and festival headliners and all that kind of thing. But the music itself is very provocative. It's very difficult to penetrate, like I said at the start of the episode, and it's very abrasive. So the bits that I've been listening to, like the playlists you did for us, I've noticed a huge difference in where this type of music goes. You got some parts of it that sound like it belongs in a club in mid-80s Berlin, like you said, and then some of it is just sounds like just having your fucking head smashed in kind of thing, and everything in between. And that it's almost like a completely separate genre of music, completely from heavy metal, from rock, from punk, from everything, because of everything that goes on in between. It's completely its own.
You're right. I mean, it does. It literally, like you say. I mean, you can go from like Godflesh to Swans, and I mean, I've never been to a louder gig than Swans at Roadburn a few years ago. I mean, it was literally like 15 minutes. I'm like, I've got to get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, Wallowing. I loved you, man, but fuck me. You've still got a way to go when you're producing that intensity in front of 2,000 people. Christ on a bike. You know what I mean? That was, but again, it was that clanking industrial rhythm, which doesn't sound like anything else, but it was that sheer kind of intensity as a stage performance. Godflesh do the same, but then you can pull back and go to, I don't know, like Nine Inch Nails and their kind of like Prince influenced riffs and stuff like that, and it still comes under that same banner of industrial.
Yeah, it's mad how varied it is, and that's like you said, that watching Swans and it being that intense.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if that's just something that's come naturally, or it's like when they start this up and go, right, we're going to do something that will completely fuck with your brain, or whether it's just something that happens.
Well, I mean, you also got to think like Godflesh came from first Napalm Death album.
Yeah.
So Broadrick's like, and also by the way, Kirk Hammett apparently lists Broadrick as one of his most influential guitarists.
That's mad.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just straight away. You got the Metallica name dropping Godflesh as an influence. What the fuck?
We know they love Geordie from Killing Joke, don't they?
Just raising a glass to that man. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Lost a legend.
Yeah, well, just quickly before we go on, just mention Killing Joke. We'll talk about them a little bit more later on, but Killing Joke at Bloodstock last year before, they were sub-headlined to Salam of God, and the number of people that were watching that band from the side of stage,
wow.
No other band over the whole weekend had the same kind of, like Randy Blythe was watching them and he was just endlessly taking photos. He was just obsessed with them. That level of influence that band have it's bizarre.
Well, you know, you wouldn't have had Nirvana's Come As You Are without Killing Joke 80s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you ever watch that documentary, the Death and Resurrection show, Killing Joke documentary, like 3-hour documentary, even by their own admission, some of it's true, some of it's not. You make your own mind up.
Yeah.
Again, back to the chaos. But yeah, he's saying that even, you know, Dave Grohl played drums for free on their album just because it was like, well, you fucking owe us. You know what I mean? We're not paying you, you owe us. So
yeah, it's fair. And they're one of those bands that, again, that crossed into the mainstream on a, you know, on quite a large scale, and have, you know, that broad appeal outside the subculture of industrial music. But they're a hard band to pin down, Killing Joke. They're not an industrial band, are they? They're
no,
you know, one of many different things.
But then I think, like what I was saying to you the other day, I think the likes of, I think Killing Joke, even much more than Ministry, have crossed almost every subsection of what you would class maybe as industrial. You know, they've done a goth album, or an album that sounds like goth. They've done albums that dub, almost like dub reggae beats. They've done albums that like Pandemonium, heavy fucking riffs. So they've got like a metal album, a metal industrial album there. Then they've got other post-punk stuff, which is what they started with. So they've kind of they've just gone across almost every album. Okay, we're going to do this one now. Now we're going to do a different song. And you could almost label them as the ultimate industrial band without them ever wanting to be called industrial. If that makes sense.
And it just proves how good they were, I suppose. I mean, I've never been the biggest fan. It's only really since seeing them at Bloodstock that I've started to kind of dip into them a lot more. And the more I understand, the more I get into them, the more I enjoy it. And they are just, you know, one of those bands that, while it takes me a long time to get into it and I've got to be in that certain mood, you can just understand they're out there completely on their own.
I saw them at Sonisphere, well, one of them anyway. They were that sort of post headliner bands, like at midnight, that kind of thing, in the second stage.
Yeah. Oh,
wow. Lots of dry ice, lots of darkness, and Jazz just being his usual self. But yeah, glad I got to see him live once.
Not bar,
Jazz
Com.
I've seen them at the Barfly in Camden.
God,
fucking hell!
That was like that was a secret Kerrang show, and it was like what what's the capacity? 150 people, maybe.
Yeah, but it was about that. That's in the Monarch one at near Chalk Farm. That one.
Yes, upstairs.
Yeah, upstairs. Yeah. You can't be any more than about 150, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely fucking bonkers. Like, as you'd imagine, you know what I mean? Totally fucking nuts. Brilliant.
And that's what I love about it. It's just, no matter how, you know, you're 40 odd years into your career, and like I said, even seeing them in 2022, they are still very much that. Nothing's toned down or anything. It's still, they are still what they are.
You know what they are? You know, I put out that thing ages ago about what bands have united the tribes, like your Motorheads and your and whatnot. And I think you go to Killing Jokes, you'll see everyone.
Yeah.
You know, punks, metalheads, rastas, skinheads, goths, a lot.
Almost in a way like the New Model Army. In that I've found like there is I can find a similar feeling to go to a New Model Army gig when I go to a Killing Joke gig. You've got everybody from every genre, from front to back, knows every single song.
Yeah. And
also, what you say about the tribe, what I also love about Killing Joke is most of their gigs, certainly when they're doing like anniversary shows, like 25th, 30th anniversary, they call it tribal gathering. It's not a show to them, it's a tribal gathering.
Yeah.
It's like, man. So yeah, it's more than just music at that point. It's a whole immersive experience. Nor did it get too flighty, but you know.
Let's tap into that then, because that's something I've got in my notes about the tribalism of industrial as a whole, and that total buy-in of it, of the whole subculture that surrounds the music. And if you're into that, if you're really into that, you're really into it. And it's almost like it becomes a massive part of your life. Some of the articles I've read that people only listen to industrial music and nothing else, and anything else is a bit too much. And it kind of, it does bring in that level of, or seems to bring in that level of obsession, which probably every form of music does, but I noticed it more in this than I had done with anything else.
But I think what you were saying earlier about industrial is almost a genre on its own. You know, you've got like metal, and then you've got like thrash metal, speed metal, doom metal, and everything else. You can put industrial into a completely different box, and then you've got like industrial metal, industrial goth, industrial electronic. So it's almost like you're not a metalhead at that point. You're an industrialist, if you like. You know what I mean? but yeah, I can. I mean, I'll listen to anything, but yeah, I can well believe that people would just go into industrial, and why would they want to go anywhere else? Almost, you know what I mean? You can think they've got every. If they want to listen to, I don't know, a metal band, they'll put on Ministry. They want to listen to some goth, they could put on Killer Joe, or they could put on some post-punk, Public Image, Skinny Puppy, stuff like that. So they've almost got an entire genre just to research on their own without even touching on other stuff.
That's what I find so fascinating, that the music is so hard to penetrate, yet it just seems to draw people in, and it's peculiar.
It's almost like all pervasive, you know what I mean? It's hard to penetrate, but at the same time, you could take a metaler who's absolutely fuck that, I'm not listening to that electronic shit. Take him to a Ministry gig. He's going to come out with a sore neck. You know what I mean? You could take a goth. Oh, I'm not listening to metal. Again, take it to a Ministry gig, and they're going to come out going, fuck, that was great. So
yeah.
But at the same time, like you say, it can be quite impenetrable. But at the same time, being, I don't know, very open, if you like.
Yeah, I suppose when I'm going through a playlist in my car of a lot of material I'm not familiar with, I suppose it makes it harder to penetrate. But I think, like we were talking about earlier in the week, I've seen Ministry live a couple of times, and that Wacken headline set in 2006 was one of them. That's probably the most memorable one. In fact, that was definitely the most memorable one. And they were a fucking force, and that made the whole thing sound completely different.
Yeah, well, I mean, I liken that to being, you've got a band up there on stage at that point, headlining Wacken 2006, who have got a total understanding of technology, of electronics. So it's like, and then they've also got a total understanding of metal riff. You know what I mean? You could put a metal band up there, and they're going to be relying on maybe, I don't know, festival sound guys. But if you put a band that's industrial up there, their whole thing is based around tech stuff and technological sort of enhancements. So they know what they're doing, and they know how to create a fucking good sound, a clear sound and a loud sound. And you were there. Wow, what a show.
Yeah, it was. And again, I'd seen them prior to that, but I'd never been a fan. And no, I still don't. I'm not really a fan now, but they're definitely a band that if I was like at a festival, I would 100% watch them, because a weekend of heavy metal, death metal, black metal, grindcore. It's one thing, but this is like another level of extreme.
Yeah. I mean,
but Ministry, like you said earlier on, Ministry managed to throw in the hooks.
That's exactly what it is. They've got the riffs. They've also got the catchy chorus. They've got, I don't know. They've got the aesthetic. They've got, Al Jurgensen. Whatever anybody thinks of the guy, he knows his shit and he knows what to do. You know what I mean? Regardless of telling you to watch that video of him and a chicken.
He's an interesting character, to say the least.
Oh, mate. Yeah. Having met him on a few occasions. Interesting. Does his own thing when he wants to do it, and that's it.
But I suppose that's his whole. That's him, and that's what makes Ministry. It's like, you wouldn't. You'd almost be a little bit disappointed if you met him and he's fucking playing chess and reading The Guardian. It's like,
but that's the kind of thing Al Jurgensen would probably do one day.
Isn't he like a history major in America? He was a history professor or something at some point, and he keeps saying everything. There's a couple of times where he's actually going, "Oh, Ministry, that's it," and he's going to go back to teaching, and then about a year later, he's reformed Ministry. So he's a history teacher.
He's a madman.
Well, it's less drugs in the history teaching industry, but
it depends on the university.
What I didn't realise about Ministry is like how far they do go back. Because you know, before I kind of understood them, I thought it was, you know, early 90s and whatnot, but it goes back way before that.
They were synth pop band.
Yeah.
With Sympathy, it was only a couple of years ago, their first album, With Sympathy, Al Jurgensen basically disowned it, almost like Tom Warrior with Cold Lake. Yeah, he literally disowned that first album. It's like, fucking nothing to do with me. I was basically being paid to write pop music. But if you listen to that first album, whether he hates it or not, it's a fucking good album.
It's got a fan base. I see it pop on Instagram a lot from the community of, like, you know, the 80s retro crowd who like all that sort of post Stranger Things stuff. And it's solid. It's solid 80s synth pop.
Yeah, and that was like, I think because he was young and he was like, okay, young, and I needed the money at the time, kind of thing. But yeah, he was basically paid to just write music, and then this album came out, and he was like, this is nothing to do with me. And then the follow-up album to that, Twitch, that's when you start to sound like Ministry, with that slightly more distorted vocals, things like that, and a little bit more heavy, like beat-driven. But that first album is like, fucking hell, like a throwaway Depeche Mode album. Is
it out there? Is it out there on streaming platforms?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He actually, I think it's the last couple of years, the band, he's back in band, or the band that he's now currently Ministry, I think a few of them actually re-recorded a couple of songs behind his back just to kind of surprise him as a thing. And he was just like, oh, fuck, actually, it does sound all right. So I think he's changed his tune now in the last couple of years, but it was a long time. He was just like, "No, man, this is not my album. Nothing to do with me." We
have reached a point where that stuff is a lot more, I don't want to say acceptable, but I think with 80s culture being quite accepted by younger people, and a lot of it has dated quite well, because a lot of it is just, there's genuinely good songs from that period.
Yeah.
I mean, 80s is almost a timeless period now for this, for pop music. So,
I mean, but a good song's a good song, regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the beauty of a band like Ministry, that Al Jurgensen knows how to write a fucking good song, regardless of how it sounds. You could re-record it. It's still a good fucking song.
Well, they managed to make a long career out of it, you know. And if you know, if a band disappears for a few years and you can just reignite it and still go out and play to loads of people, then you've obviously got that legacy. It's never going to go away. So, you know, it's they're a fascinating band. What are they doing now? Are they still a band? What's the sort of
Pepper Keenan guest vocaled on the new album, unbelievably. Nice. On what's the song? Goddamn White Trash. I think Pepper Keenan's doing he's doing vocals on the chorus. Sorry, Al, if you're listening to this, but I'm not a fan of the last couple of albums. I think they've just gone a little bit too musically soft, maybe.
It didn't strike me as being as harsh as older stuff. It was, I mean, I suppose the last album was, to a certain extent, listenable. It wasn't exactly Filth Pig, was it?
No. And I got to say, actually, on that point of Filth Pig, I remember getting the single because it was like everybody's expecting the next Psalm 69. And Filth Pig was so far removed. And you get that first single, you're like, oh, here we go. It's going to be another Just One Fix. It's like, what the fuck is this? It was like, I don't know, almost like a more riffy Jesus and Mary chain. What the fuck is this? And I really didn't, it didn't click with me for about a good couple of years. And then I went back and revisited, and it's now, I've got to say, one of my favorite albums, regardless of Ministry. Like, the bass tones on that album were just fucking insane.
So other bands then, Ministry, obviously, you know, Ministry, Killing Joke, they're probably the two biggest names. You know, obviously 9 Inch Nails. We'll touch on them in a little bit, but from what I've been listening to, from when you first sort of did that playlist for us, thank you, by the way, because it's been really interesting. The bits of it that I've enjoyed, Skinny Puppy, really enjoyed them. KMFDM I knew anyway, but the more I've listened to, the more I've started to enjoy them. Surprisingly accessible. You know, the early 9 Inch Nails stuff and all that I enjoy, but there's some of it that I will admit there's some of it that I've kind of gone. I had to skip the track because I just can't fucking get through it. I just
actually, okay, yeah. So I can well imagine the bands that you definitely liked out of that playlist. What was the stuff you didn't like?
So let me pull up the playlist. I've got it in front of me because there's a lot of it I can't remember, but it's surprising. What's actually surprised me about listening to his music is, obviously, one way or another we're metal fans, but the industrial stuff that I've listened to, the more beat driven stuff is what I've enjoyed more than the more guitar driven stuff. Okay. Whether it's because it's a bit easier to penetrate, I don't know, but that's
interesting because
be more.
I might be, well, I wouldn't say the other way, but I'm, there's a reason why I prefer someone like Nine Inch Nails to KMFDM or Ministry is because they're a bit more, they're not as beat based, I think, those other bands are very much almost like house music, but raw. Whereas Nine Inch Nails were, I suppose, a synth pop / post punk band who just decided to be more fucked up. So it's interesting that because
But he took it like Trent Reznor. He puts out Prince as being one of his biggest influences, and you listen to stuff off Downward Spiral like Closer even. It's just got that's a Prince riff in there.
Yeah.
And some of those bass licks are just total funk.
But stuff like Pigface, that didn't really do it for me. Swans a little bit. I sort of struggled with that a little bit, but there was a couple of songs on there that I liked, and I've actually gone and listened to more. But there might be something in that. Atari Teenage Riot are a band. They're one of those, right? So we go back to Reading Festival, 1999, I think it was, and Atari Teenage Riot were on at 11:30 in the morning on the main stage.
And there's a hangover cure for you.
Oh, mate, and I'd never heard anything like this at this point, and this fucking came on, and it was just like, what the fuck is this? The pits were insane. It was like the only people that got up to go and watch that band were those that wanted to watch them.
Yeah,
and it was fucking insane. It was 30 minutes of just having my fucking head smashed in.
Almost like
at a million miles an hour.
Beats. They just I mean, there's actually, I'll try and find it and send it to you. I think there was a documentary on YouTube about Atari Teenage Riot. Really interesting documentary about them, about the whole evolution of the band and their revolutionary political stance, stuff like that as well. But it all kind of fell apart because money got involved, obviously.
Yeah.
But I saw them once supporting Nine Inch Nails on the Fragile tour at Brixton Academy. Fuck me. We walked in, and I think they split up that night, or it was certainly that was the last night of the tour. We walked in. Oh my god, it was just white noise.
Yeah,
with a whole rack of fucking gear on stage. Just, I can't even describe it. You know what I mean? It was just like, what the fuck is this? On one hand, this is the most amazing gig ever. On the other hand, let's just get out. You know what I mean? You don't know. You're in that thing of like, it wasn't terrible, but it was like, I feel like I need to stay just to say that I was there. You know what I mean?
And you know what? You funny you say that, because that's kind of what we thought watching them. It's like first couple of minutes you think, no, fuck this, let's go. But I found myself compelled to stay and watch the whole set.
Yeah. It's it's probably like having a tattoo. It's an addictive pain.
It could be something like that. Yeah. I think I went to have a lie down afterwards, maybe, or something. And bear in mind, I was only 18 at the time, so fuck knows what effect it would have on me now.
Wow. Yeah, and you're a fully well-adjusted adult now, right?
Well, quite go that far. But
it's weird because the first time I heard Atari Teenage Riot was actually when I was 17 on the Spawn soundtrack, because they teamed up with
Slayer.
Yeah. That was quite an experience just listening to that.
That it's like take Slayer to another degree.
That soundtrack was an odd one, wasn't it? Because like a few years after the Judgment Night soundtrack, it was like, this is the next kind of big movie soundtrack of crossing over genres and everything, and it kind of just fell a bit flat. That
Yeah, it had
Well,
its moments,
There was a
but
couple of bits on it that were good, but most of it was just
because it was all very like before new metal really hit. You know, you had all this sort of. It was cyber metal, wasn't it? It wasn't industrial. It was cyber metal. They were
Diamond
pushing.
Metal. That was
You look at Metal Hammer's aesthetic at the time. Their
Oh
design
yeah,
very.
obviously a media hashtag. Yeah, but then to be fair, if you're going to follow up, well, Judgment Night soundtrack, you're on a loser anyway.
exactly, and I think that might have been the problem. You know that because that was the sort of
Yeah, it
the
could be
sort of
right.
drive behind it. Nah, just absolutely not. Funny enough, I've just Googled cyber metal because I hadn't completely forgotten about that term and I haven't heard it for years. And some of the bands that when you Google it get dropped into that. I mean, Fear Factory are one of them, Death Stars, and
Oh,
Oceans,
who?
um,
Who was that last one?
and Oceans,
Oh,
Oh, and Oceans. Oh, I don't know.
which are more of a I don't know, they're more sort of just keyboard driven black metal.
yeah.
You know, I wouldn't-
That sounds like post black emo punk something.
See what I mean? This is it, isn't it? We're sitting here going, right, what fucking pigeonhole can we put this in?
Oh, fuck off.
We got to make it smaller and smaller and smaller.
Listen, I'm going to pull in a Lemmy quote at this point where he said, there's no such thing as alternative music. Alternative music is Japanese nose flutes. Everything else is just rock and roll.
It's a fucking interesting take on rock and roll. I'll give it that.
Mm.
But yeah. Let's quickly go back to the to the subculture side of it, the aesthetic and the general, you know, the way it feels like it belongs in just it belongs at a deafening volume in clubs and just right in your face and just really fucking intense and abrasive and so you know so Global Noise Attack, would you consider is that an industrial band? Is that what you kind of do?
The band started around like early 90s. I mean, I joined like 15 years ago.
Okay.
Because it was when I launched Seventh Circle Artworks and I was doing a launch party. And of course, I had fuck all else to do other than become the bass player for Global Noise Attack, or invited to headline as part of that launch party. But yeah, I mean, they've played with, I think it's Brian, the singer, he actually said they were on the bill for Rammstein's first ever London show.
Fucking hell.
Which was like tiny, like really small show, maybe the Borderline or something like that.
It was, yeah. I think I know someone who went to it actually. So yeah, it was a very small venue.
So yeah, no, I would definitely consider we are. Yeah, because I think Global Noise Attack have got that catchy riffs. It's a big chorus kind of thing. And yeah, so far as the stage show goes, I mean, yeah, I sent you that link, Steve, with the with the angle grinder.
Awesome. I admit, that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and most gigs, if it's a smaller gig and it's not a big stage, normally we'll have like a pinata as well. So we like to throw a pinata into the crowd, and it's all about that crowd, much more of a crowd interaction than a lot of metal shows. I think, certainly for us, anyway.
And that's what I mean. This sort of like total buy-in. So when you're a band at that level and you're playing those shows, and you can still get that level of interaction, and you can be, right with it. That it's Rammstein are all the way up here with the fucking ridiculous show, and you can still do it down there, and it's completely different. I think is that why there's such a buy into it, because it's so interactive.
It's probably because it's more of an event than just watching four guys with t-shirt and jeans on stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It probably has that same kind of let's say buy-in like black metal does. Because who wants? I mean, there are the bands out there, but who really wants to go and see a black metal band in t-shirt and jeans? Black metal could be. Let's face it, black metal's not the most orally pleasing music in the world. But when you see it with all the fucking the spikes and the corpse paint and everything else, it becomes a theatrical event.
Yeah.
And I think industrial music and goth, hand in hand, have got to be along that same line in order to succeed as what they want to be. You have to be more theatrical. I mean, the singer in our band is an actor. He's been in Star Wars and Pirates of the Caribbean, which is why when we play, it's like, you know what I mean? We can do what the fuck we like because Brian's just going to go off with his radio mic and just beat Brian. You know what I mean? Because he's an actor as well. So he just does what he does.
But here's one for you then. So let's compare it to black metal, because that's probably the nearest heavy music can come when you're talking levels of extreme. Now, what black metal has become these days compared to what it was in the early 90s, the Inner Circle stuff in Norway and all that ridiculous thing. Black metal's almost gone black metal's quite accessible these days. There's an awful lot of that around. You've got a lot of black metal bands that play huge venues to huge crowds, headlining festivals and all that kind of thing. This isn't don't quote me on this. This isn't necessarily true, but black metal's almost gone a bit soft, whereas industrial is a form of music that I don't think has, and I don't think will, because there's only a very small select number of bands that have broken through that barrier.
It's an interesting. That is actually quite interesting. But then those bands, most industrial bands, have always been fairly. I don't know. They've not been inaccessible. Like black metal has always been traditionally like very extreme, and just kind of like, wow, no, you don't want to. That's abrasive. But most industrial bands, certainly industrial metal, have always had a good riff or a good hook. You know what I mean? Even the mid level have always had something catchy, or like say, like with the need to be played loud in the club. It's club music, and if it's club music, people are dancing to it. And if people are dancing to it, then it's because it's catchy.
Yeah.
You don't dance to black metal. You know what I mean? Well, you can try it.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should do more of that.
Yeah. Love to see that. But I think maybe that's what it is. Because industrial, as loud and as abrasive as it can be, it's always got some kind of beat-driven hook to it.
And maybe it's a bit more subconscious. Maybe that hook and that beat is more subconscious, that it hits a different point in the brain that
maybe it's repetitive. Maybe it's I made a couple of notes on my thing. I was like, it's repetitive. That's the thing. You've got like even KMFDM. Some of the lyrics always talk about like a KMFDM beat, and it's just like it's that kind of almost like 120 beats a minute. It draws you in. It's almost like it kind of gets into you. Whereas black metals will go, fast, extreme. Industrial is almost like, no, we're gonna keep the beat, that primal, that beat going, and then you've got all this other shit going on around it on the outside, but you've still got that rhythm that kind of catches you a little bit.
I have to admit that side of it interests me a lot, and I think it's a form of music that I don't think I would ever really sit and listen to. Saturday night, glass of wine, throw on some industrial, have a bit of relax. That's not that would never be me. But I'm starting to see the appeal, and I need to, I don't know if anything still exists in London, anything like that, but somewhere where you can go and you can fully immerse yourself in that type of music, and I want to experience that side of it.
I was literally about to say to you, we went to Club Antichrist last Saturday.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
It's now moved to the Scala, so it's now on a Saturday night, which for me is like, it used to be in Fire in Vauxhall, and it was like on a Friday night. So you're coming straight from work, finishing work at 5, 6 o'clock. Like, I don't want to go home yet, but the club doesn't start till 10, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
What do I do for 4 hours? Drink. By the time you get to the club, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. You just fucking passed out on the floor.
Yeah.
It didn't work, but the club was great. But now it's on the Scala, so you got Saturday club, so you can literally just do what you want to do, chill out a little bit, and then go out for the night. And it starts at like 10 till 6 in the morning. And you know what? There was no techno. There's my other gripe with some of these industrial clubs, like Slime Light. We went a few weeks ago. The old classic Slime Light. The goth room didn't play any goth. It was just fucking techno again. And you're just like, come on, can you rate it and play good music? Mate, Antichrist last Saturday, the main room was everything from Typo Negative to KMFDM, playing Skinny Puppy in the main room, Ministry, Upstairs was just metal, new metal all fucking night, and the main foyer room was everything else in between, but no techno, and it was absolutely fucking brilliant. So big shout out to the Antichrist guys. Thank you very much. That was a great night. Well done.
Techno.
Techno. Yeah, you did right.
No,
but I would recommend, we're going to be going in again in September. If you do want to kind of tag along,
I think I will, because it will just, I think it will just help me understand all of this.
Man, and like you say, it needs to be loud in clubs.
Yeah.
And I think this is another thing that kind of, thinking about it now, I think there's another kind of thing that plays into that industrial feel. So when did club culture start? What, mid-70s, disco? Stuff like that, right? So, and then when did industrial start? Late 70s. So you're suddenly getting this feel of like loud beats, stuff like that. So yeah, maybe that just, coincidentally around about the same time.
Because obviously, I think our generation, when it was all full tilt, wasn't it?
Full tilt.
I actually met my wife in Full Tilt in March 1999.
Fucking hell, there you go.
That's how fucking old I am. And we've been together 25 years. So,
I mean, my mate met his wife, not a Full Tilt, but at a rock club on a Wednesday night after we'd been to a gig. It was the day after my birthday, and so of course he now never comes out for my birthday because he's always doing an anniversary thing with his missus. Bless it. I'm totally fine with it, but it's like I don't even bother inviting him now because he always. I know he's always got plans.
Was that in London?
It was on a Wednesday night. We'd been to see our band play at the Sound Republic, and I went home back to Surrey because I had to go, and he went to meet a mate at a club because he was studying in East London, and he met her, and they're still together. Bless, and that was in 2000. So
there you go.
There you go. You can take a little bit of credit for that. There for two, you'd never gone out that night and never met his wife.
There you go.
Basically, yeah. Well, I know, but he might have gone to that show anyway. I think, but I'll hold it.
That side of it, then, is there like? I can only imagine there's a positive answer to this, but what's it like from an acceptance point of view? Because you go to something like Club Antichrist. I'm aware of Club Antichrist. I know what it's all about. I've obviously never been, but I understand it. This comes back to that whole. You can go to something like that and you can just completely fucking express yourself, and it's it's just complete freedom.
It's not my thing, but yeah, I mean, on a level of complete freedom. Oh yeah. Your eyes are kind of like, oh fuck, okay, fine, but nobody bats an eyelid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and I've always loved that about going to the like you say about the old Full Tilt in the ballroom, way back to when Slimelight was like the real deal. Slimelight before even before they had a drinks license, you had to take your own booze.
Yeah.
And that was then. That almost feels like what Antichrist is now. It's almost harking back to those old 90s days where you would literally go in and you just walk around and go, "What the fuck?" But nobody else did, and you're like, "Oh shit, sorry, am I being the one that's being prudish?" You know what I mean? And it was great. I think it was absolutely fantastic, and I can't honestly think of anywhere better to be than somewhere that everybody's free to do what they want.
Yeah, and that's a fucking great thing. We on the 100th episode, when we're sort of harking back to our younger days, we're talking about the death of the metal club and the metal night, and there does seem to be a few starting to pop up, these types of things, and it does feel like there's a bit of a resurgence. And they were good days. You could just go enjoy the music. Fucking loud.
You got me properly fucking reminiscing on that episode with the rock night. You got rock club, rock bars, and you got rock this and the other. But yeah, I do miss just going because you knew it was going to be on a Friday night. Don't go there on a Saturday because it would be the usual shit. Yeah. Go there on a Friday. I mean, we used to have like, fucking hell, I'm talking like mid 90s. So on a Monday night, I'd be going to Hollywood's in Romford. It was the rock night, metal night, Hollywood's in Romford nightclub. Tuesday night, forget it. Wednesday was Liberty's in Romford, which was a metal night. Thursday was Liberty's in Romford, live bands indie night. Friday, the Brewery Tap in Barking, metal night, followed by the Ilford Island quick bus ride up till 3 o'clock in the morning. Massive old cinema that became a nightclub. Body Count played there at one point. Carcass. And then on the Saturday, the classic Ruskin Arms in East Ham for the
Yes.
the most
was
multicultural pub I've ever fucking been in my life. Absolutely brilliant, but like genuinely brilliant because everybody fucking got on with everybody else.
I
you
do
got me
hope
properly reminiscent.
Yeah, that's good because that's what it was. It is those
man,
great days because it was like, you know, back then where it wasn't really in the mainstream. Obviously, you had new metal and that in the late 90s, but it was the place you could go to listen to stuff. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have this, you know, everything was on your fingertips. You just go and just have fucking, you know, Metallica, Pantera, Slayer, loud.
Yeah.
And it was fucking great.
Or even more so, going to rock scene at the Astoria on a Friday.
I never went there. That was a little bit before I sort of came up this way, but
oh mate, yeah, like again, a room like the main Astoria room, just playing like big metal, and then upstairs, everything from like Cinderella to Skid Row in the upstairs bar. Great night.
Yeah, it was just a good time, didn't it? Because obviously you'd had the 80s, so there was still plenty of stuff there, and people who still loved that stuff. But you know, the 90s, we talked in endless times on this pod about the amount of stuff that the 90s threw up, and of course, you know, club culture was a thing in the 90s, wasn't it? Generally, so you got that crossover and alternative music, you know, heavy drinking and that kind of culture that came with it, and it just all mixed. And yeah, you don't know how good you got it until it's gone, do you?
No, £1.50, £1.50 a bottle of Newcastle Brown Ale. Wow.
Fucking hell.
Over the days.
I don't think I've drank Newcastle Brown since the 90s. It was one of the first sort of things, you know.
It's probably why you look as healthy as you do now.
Well, this is probably it. Yeah. Yeah. Funny enough, my doctor's surgery left a message on my phone the other day asking me if I wanted to come in for a health check. Thinking, oh, fucking hell, am I that age now? That's it.
Probably not wise.
Shoving fingers up my arse and all sorts. Yeah. But
go Antichrist for that.
What date was that? Let me just write that down.
14th September.
Oh, it isn't, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, we got a gig that night.
Have you?
Yeah. Little plug, September the 14th. Radio City Social here in Chelmsford. We got Dunes, Flame Bearer, and the Grey. And tenner a ticket. No fee. Yeah, tenner a ticket, no fees. What you see is what you pay. Come along, it's gonna be a fucking great night.
Fuck it. Oh, good plug.
But we'll make it. I'll make it the next one. I will definitely get involved in a bit of that. I want to experience it. So
yeah, I need to do it. I'll make the effort.
Yeah, be good.
Can I bring my kids, or is it not appropriate? No, maybe not. No. Yeah, no.
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 What age are
they? 13 and 15.
Oh, definitely no.
Yeah, no. We'll leave that one.
I was going to say 18 and 19. Yeah, but just walk away.
I don't think I will. I don't think I will ever be comfortable. You know, I've been to a couple of gigs with my daughter because she's got into the music, but I don't think I would ever be comfortable in that situation with my kids, regardless of the age.
Regardless, even if they were mid-20s, no, you'd be like, no. Shit, no.
Thank you very much.
It's at that point where I'm glad I've only got a cat to worry about. I'm fine.
Don't take your cat either. I don't think that'd be.
I wouldn't take the cat, but at the same time, you know what I mean? Well,
one other thing I want to touch on with this is any controversies that surround this sort of music and subculture. Now, I'm not gonna sort of point fingers and things like that, but when you're doing research of industrial music and that kind of sort of subculture, things come up, and you know, same as you get with black metal is you start seeing right wing mentioned, you start seeing fascism mentioned. Now, from your point of view, who is a lot more knowledgeable of this kind of music, where does that stand? Is that a load of bullshit, or is there an element somewhere that's?
I think I don't want to use the term blown out of proportion because, you know, anything like that is not good. But I think I think it's probably more American based than it is anywhere else in the world. I don't think it's a European or a UK thing. but I don't know, man. I just think that whole kind of thing is all part and parcel of the BDSM scene anyway.
Yeah.
And industrial music and goth music is all kind of tied into that. Well, like Club Antichrist is a good example. You know what I mean? You'd be going there and there's a sex dungeon, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? So you don't get that in your average club at all. So there is all part and parcel of this, the whole BDSM or gay scene or whatever it's called, the fetish scene. There's going to be arseholes in every walk of life.
That's true.
Right? All I would say is I don't think it's anything other than just an aesthetic.
Yeah.
From my experience. But like I say, there's pricks everywhere. You know what I mean? But then you're going to find that in a fucking trendy nightclub as well. So probably more so.
But is it because the aesthetic itself has attracted the wrong crowd?
I don't even know if it's even attracted a crowd. I think it's just attracted an interest from people who don't know anything about it, maybe.
Yeah, because I mean, if we go back to the Joy Division thing, they attracted Nazi skinheads, didn't they, to their gigs because of the name, and of course they always got to fights and kicked off and whatnot. And you know, you look. I suppose you look at the imagery of certain bands on records, etc. You can understand that people might think, "Oh, that looks, are they one of us?" kind of thing, even though they're not.
Okay, how big did Spandau Ballet get in the world? Right, with a name like Spandau Ballet.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. It's such a fucking difficult thing to unpick. But from my experience, I think it's purely down to it's a pure aesthetic thing. If you've got BDSM, what's more kind of aggressive than I don't know a Nazi-clad dominatrix?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean she's a fucking Nazi.
No.
It just means that's part of the game that's being played. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because I'm really into my synthwave, and there is a subgenre that's emerged at some point called Fashwave. So it's a similar sort of thing. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, okay, that might be pushing the boundaries a little bit.
Yeah.
Fashwave.
I couldn't name you any of the artists. I just read about it for fuck's sake, really.
It's always like going, we've got like no blacks, no Irish wave. I don't know. It's like what the
fucking
But it always just seems to pop up. And again, is it that sort of electronic harsh beat? Is there something about it that just seems to attract a crowd? I don't know. I don't think that's the case. It's just like you say. It's just there's arseholes everywhere. And
I think from an attraction point of view, I mean, I played with a band called Scalp Lock back in the 1999, 2000. They're like hardcore, real fucking fast hardcore band. The main guy was in Unseen Terror with Shane Embry and Mitch from Napalm.
Yeah.
So, but we played a gig in Germany. Did the tour, played this gig in Germany, and suddenly it was just being mobbed by fucking Nazi skinheads because they just thought, oh, it's a punk gig, so they started coming in. It was just like fuck. All I remember was like, well, we finished the gig and we were kind of being, just get the fuck out because it's all going to blow up at some point. They're like, well, it's a punk gig, but we were playing and we were like, all of our stuff is about kind of sort of voodoo religion and anti-capitalism and all this stuff at the time. So what the fuck? The fuck is this? Well, it's just Nazi skinheads being attracted to a punk gig. That's all it is. But you could look at it and go, oh, Scalp Lock attracts Nazis.
That's that's probably what it is. It's just it's almost like a lazy link, isn't it? It's like when
lazy journalism.
It's like exactly that. It's like when mainstream press gets hold of an alternative subculture and they make assumptions, and that's then how it gets out, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look at anybody who's involved in the neo-folk scene. You know, it's a neo-folk. It is what it is. It's using, you know, sort of rune symbols and all this kind of like this old kind of like, and you're like, oh, well, the Nazis use that, so therefore you're a fucking racist.
Yeah.
No. Like, can you just Can you just stop trying to find problems where there aren't problems?
Just creating controversy for no reason, isn't it?
Nothing else better to do, Syndrome.
It's just, I don't get, but that's something that, that us being heavy metal fans and, in inverted commas, alternative music fans, that's something we've always had, and it's always there.
Yeah. Oh, you're wearing black, or
I
mean, I used to have a big iron cross on my back. It wasn't because I'm a fucking Nazi. It was just like, it's a big punk symbol. And I got some shit in Camden, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna have to just take it off my jacket. But it was a lovely patch. I'm like, well, I can't risk getting into shit for something that's people think is something that's not. You know what I mean?
People are just misconstruing. But it's almost like that's what they want. That's what they want to think it is. So they can get angry about it. So they can get upset about it.
That's exactly it. They want a war because, I don't know, because they're bored with their own life. I don't know what it is. And I think that is exactly what this comes down to, possibly with a lot of black metal, certainly with industrial.
Yeah. And it's not really fair. Like you say, there's dickheads in every walk of life, unfortunately, and
exactly,
and all of this is no different. So right, we'll finish off the episode then on Nine Inch Nails, because I know the Voice of Reason is a big fan. I'm assuming you're a fan as well. I'm not a massive fan of Nine Inch Nails, but from your point of view as fans, what is it about Nine Inch Nails that's made them as big as they are? How have they managed to break out of the darkness, so to speak?
He stopped taking heroin. He dropped the drugs. For me, I think Trent has been innovative. I actually wanted to pull this up. There's a great story I remember never forgetting, a guitar magazine, fucking years and years ago. The guitar sound on the Downward Spiral, a lot of it is down to the fact that he recorded a distorted guitar, slowed it down through his Mac, and then used that as a filter to play the guitar back through. So it doesn't sound like any distorted guitar you're going to hear, because it's like a slowed down distorted guitar played in real time, which is weird. But you're breaking boundaries on technology and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I think that's where Trent is an absolute fucking genius.
There's no doubt he's from a creative point of view, as much as I'm not a massive Nine Inch Nails fan, what he does, what they do, they're one of those bands. You come across a band, you think, I fucking wish I was a fan of Nine Inch Nails, because
it's timing. I think it just sort of happened, or started to grow at just about the right time. Because I think when Pretty Hate Machine came out in '89, obviously it attracted its fans, but it wasn't an instant hit, was it?
No,
absolutely not. It's only when Lollapalooza happened in '91, I think, that his stars started to get a bit bigger, and because obviously the grunge thing was happening, so lots of angst with there. Heavy, glam metal, cock rock, whatever, was dying very quickly on its arse. And you got this very harsh sound, new decade, new approach. You got all the other alternative stuff going on here and there, and I think it was just the right time. Basically, it just hit the right time. And again, because you still got songs there. I mean, and I've said this to you, Steve. Sorry, Joey. You've
broke cover.
That the EP, that follow-up EP they did to Pretty Hate Machine, the Broken EP.
Yeah.
That's got riffs on it. That's, for me, that's a metal EP, an industrial metal EP, even though they were by and large an industrial rock band. There's some huge riffs on that EP. And that was '92, so that was right at the time when their star was on the ascendancy, and they got a couple of controversial videos onto MTV, and there you go.
Right, I suppose the '90s was all about you're right, grunge and the whole alternative culture. That was probably the driving force behind it. And when you've got a line like "I want to fuck you like an animal, I want to feel you from the inside," that's going to get noticed one way or another.
Yeah, well, I say that if they'd already I think he'd already been nominated for a Grammy, if not he'd won it for oh Christ, was it? It was Wish, where he uses the where he says fist fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a first.
Actually, on that point, go on. Yeah, sorry.
No, go on. No, go on.
Did you ever see the what's it called? Closure, the video that he put out as a VHS pack, and it's got the band video for Gave Up on it.
No,
I mean, I've got it, and that is one absolutely fucking brutal video. It's the track of Gave Up, but the whole thing is centered around a guy who walks. It's all black and white. He walks into a room, and and he kind of just sits in this chair like a big kind of bondage surgical chair, and then all these mechanics kind of come in and just start to basically stab him in his flesh, and then graphically grab his balls and his cock and start just dragging on that. You're like, wow, fucking wow. And he ends up in a meat grinder.
Well, that sounds lovely.
And then Trent walks in at the end of the video for the next customer. It's a fucking crazy video.
Yeah.
And that's off the same EP as Wish.
Sounds absolutely lovely.
Delightful. Sure thing you put on like after the Queen's speech on a Sunday.
See, I like Pre-Hate Machine. I think that's a fucking great album. But yeah, Downward Spiral. Yeah, I've just never been able to get into them. And it does. It really irks me because I love what they do. I love, everything about them. They've just got this kind of. They're one of those bands that just got an aura about them that's something quite special. And I've never been able to get into them musically. It's
a bit like Tool, maybe.
Yeah. See, the only difference with them and Tool is that 9 Inch Nails don't bore me shitless. So,
I mean, don't forget it's not just about his music. Obviously, he went into production, didn't he? But we know he produced Marilyn Manson, so again, he kept himself going when he wasn't making his own music. And obviously, you've got the soundtracks because he was was the soundtrack runner for Natural Born Killers in '94. Yes. So the same year as Downward Spiral. Bloody awful film. I don't care. I'm sorry.
Oh, really? Okay.
I
agree.
That album. I really do. But really, yeah. But yeah, the soundtrack was great. And of course, he turned up on The Crow as well, same year. A couple of years later, he navigated the Lost Highway soundtrack.
Highway. I actually quite like that.
So yeah, he keeps himself busy. That's the thing. He is an artist. He's a musician. He's a producer. He's the lot. It's not just about what he does. He keeps himself. And you look at what he's doing now. He's just score after score after score of different films. It's just constant. We said he's done a bloody Disney film now, for Christ's sake. So it's
a Disney film.
Sorry, yeah, he did the score for Soul. So completely not even a weird.
It's going to be like Pocahontas in bondage or something.
No. He did, and it worked. He did do some of the more soul songs on it, but he scored a lot of it. And I don't know if you've seen it, but the guy someone's going through like the mindscape of music or something. It's weird. I don't know.
Wow.
But yeah, he's doing that, and he's scored all sorts of things, and it's just. He's a composer at this point. He's not a musician. He's a composer. He's one of the greats, and I think that's why he's always been that. He's always carried that ethic and that sort of vibe to him, and that's probably why he's elevated himself.
Lost Highway. I Lost Highway stuff. I did like it was the Perfect Drug when I actually bought that single.
Yeah, I've got that still.
I remember seeing the video on the Box. Remember the Box music TV channel? I actually phoned in and requested to watch it and had to wait till about 1 o'clock in the morning. So
that's a great video.
Great video, and it's a great song. But that in itself, it's a fucking pop song. It's really fucking catchy.
I was literally about to say, and again, you're going back to that thing where black metal's never been pop. Industrial has always had a pop element to it.
Yeah.
Of some description. Even it might be buried deep in there, but it's definitely got a catch and a hook to it.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, Perfect Drug's exactly a good example.
There you go. That says it all, doesn't it? So, well, look, I mean, that pretty much kind of sums it up for me, I suppose. I think we've only scratched the surface. To be fair, there's so much more to sort of dig into, and I'm well, I might not necessarily be interested in the music. I'm certainly interested in everything else that goes on around it. So don't be surprised if we're talking about this again at some point, because it's interesting to me. So it's a whole world of fun.
I've got to full out a good few Al Jurgensen stories. If you want to come back to this at some point.
Yeah, we'll definitely have that then, because yeah, some of the things you've mentioned to me in the past few days, I'm just thinking, fuck. We'll save that for another one, because yeah, that's could be an episode in itself. So yeah, Alex, thank you so much for coming on this evening.
Thank you, man. Been an absolute fucking pleasure.
Let's do it again sooner this time, because it's been probably close to a year since you came on last, I think. So
I feel like an annual guest.
Yeah, so let's make it a bit more regular thing. So yeah, right. Appreciate you coming on, mate. It's been really good fun. So yeah, that's about it for this week. I'm not sure what's on next week. It's a surprise. We don't know. Anybody think we plan ahead with these things, which we don't. But just sitting here watching fucking Scotland get absolutely tonked by Germany. Is it 3-0?
Wow. It's they've had a man sent off as well. It's not good.
Oh dear.
It's falling apart.
Oh well, there you go. Never mind.
Can I just have a final word? I just want to round it off. I completely forgot at the beginning.
Do we do that? Are we?
Yeah, I need to round this one off, man. Seriously. Yourself and Padre, man.
Oh yeah.
Fucking absolute hats off for the mental health episode the other week. Thank you so much for doing what you did. Thank you. Yeah. It was another level. I just wanted to make this as a fucking public announcement, man. No, really, really, really powerful stuff. It was yeah.
I'm not going to say a word, because the 1 week that I wasn't on is the 1 week we've had some of the most positive feedback we've ever had, so I'm staying out of that one.
There's a lot, man. There's a lot. Yeah. Fuck off.
It was worth doing, definitely.
Yeah, it was, and don't be surprised if it's something we revisit as well, to be fair. So
I have actually put a lot of people kind of onto the podcast, mainly because of that. They're not even metalheads, but I was like, listen, I'm doing this podcast. And a friend, yeah. By the way, you want to check out one from a couple of weeks ago, so it kind of gets their interest. And they were, oh wow, fuck. So yeah,
appreciate
again,
that.
Fucking hats off.
I'll have to re-listen, because I often re-listen to episodes. I haven't re-listened to that one yet, because I want to be in the right mood. But yeah.
What was cool for me though, listening to that, and I know we're waffling a little bit now, but what was cool for me is every week I re-listen to episodes we record, and I do the editing and all that jazz. That's obviously the first one, the only one so far I've ever been able to listen to, having no idea what happened. So it was really cool listening to that, and how it just sounded like pure catharsis, I suppose, and just having a platform to talk about it, and yeah, for everyone that has given us feedback about it, and all the nice things you've had to say, thank you. It's on their behalf.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's all good. Right, that's about it. Like I tried to say earlier on before we, more false endings than your average Caius album. Yeah, thanks for listening. We will be back next week, and as ever, stay metal.